I have a confession.
Tell me everything.
Okay, so all you estheticians are gonna have a good time with this one. So I had this like bump on my face. It was like right by my nose. And then I had you look at it and you extracted it one time, and I was like, cool, we're done with this. But like as face things go, it was like, no, bitch, I'm coming back, and I'm coming back with a vengeance. So it literally, like, I kid you not. I'm trying to think of like bigger than a chia seed, but not quite a pea, like somewhere in between that size, like a very small pea, okay, was embedded in my face. And I said, Sybil, what do I do about this? And you're like, well, just put a hot compress and like, mud mask on it. I'm like, okay. I did it for like 2 days. And then I went on a 3-week road trip. And I brought my clay mask along. But then I was like, well, I'm camping. So access to hot water, spotty. It's also 30 degrees out here. I want to go inside and put my pajamas on. So this isn't happening. So I did nothing. And then I came home, and it's as if this thing was awaiting my arrival home to then exercise, I guess you could say, its way out of my face. And like, I know this has happened to you, but like noises happened, spray on the mirror happened.
Yeah.
For like 5 days, things were still coming out, and it's not done yet, but it's close to being done. And every time I'm just like, oh my God, this skin is so gross. It's so gross. But now we're down to about a chia seed size, and I'm pleased with that. I'm pleased with
Okay.
that progress.
Okay. There is nothing more exciting for an esthetician when you're like, oh, please tell me all about the stuff that came out of your face. Magic. Love it.
I mean,
what was it
really,
like?
I'm just
The
like
texture, the look, the color. Was it hard? Was it
chunky.
soft? Did it right? Chunky? Like, what did it look like? And as other people will be like, what conversation you're having? Oh, we're talking about like a zit and the stuff that came out of it.
Yeah, it was like chunky white stuff, but it wasn't hard like some of them are. But it
Yeah.
was definitely not like liquid. And then I was like, oh, these are what they call Langer cells or something.
Langerhans cells are the ones that are hard. They're usually hard pieces. This
Oh,
was
hard.
probably just like bacteria sebaceous goo that's coming out because it's like kind of
Yeah.
chunky and like white looking.
Yep.
And
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
fun
Disgusting.
fun times.
Yeah.
Fun
So
times.
fun.
Yeah.
So
So I
fun.
I don't mind hearing about this, but like I will never watch Dr. Pimple Popper because that stuff makes me want to vomit, and I do this for a
No,
living.
disgusting.
Like,
No.
nope,
No.
nope, that's not what's happening.
I literally like swipe through all of those. But yeah, so I exercised a small demon out of my face, and we're doing better. We're not done.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah. Close, but we're not quite there.
We learned that
So
when
stay tuned.
going on camping trips, maybe bring your own hot water, bring your own things to heat hot water.
Well, I mean, I had hot water, but just like logistically, I was like, I'm not going to be fucking putting a hot compress on this. Like, I need running water for this situation, just in my own mental health headspace. But I thought about it for 3 weeks. So if, like mind over matter and like bringing that into it, I feel like when I finally arrived, it too was like, okay, we are ready. And then we handled it.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's get this party started. Hi, I'm Sybil Solon. I'm an esthetician and spa owner.
And hi, I'm Alex Ellis. I'm a wellness expert and a body nerd, and I've totally forgotten what I'm supposed to say in these intros, but we are business besties.
And bosses, running your own business, it's hard.
But we're terrible employees, so we're figuring it out.
That's right. So I'm just going to stop this for a second. I'm literally leaving this in. So I did this for like a year and a half with Alex, this intro, because we do it live every time. And she'd be like, so are you still reading yours? And I'm like, I do. I have to read it. And it's only within the last like 4 months that I've actually had to not read it. So this is giving me like schadenfreude joy.
Yeah. I mean, literally, I said hi, and then I was like, I do not recall anything that comes next. Not a single thought. It has left my mind like that weird shit out of my face. Apparently, that's where the script was in my face.
But I've already figured it all out. But we promise to share everything we know about what it takes to make six figures and beyond.
And be brutally honest about what works and what totally sucks.
Totally sucks. As you can see right now, life is full of unusual circumstances. So let's get started.
But we're here and we're still fighting. So welcome back to Skinfessional. On today's show, we are talking about the power of connections and making your clients feel welcome, and these easy connection points that you can make that you're probably not even thinking about.
And how to show up as a fearless unicorn. And even more exciting, we are talking with Kim Bogash today, Head to Toe by Kimbo, and we're going to get this started right now. Well, hello, everyone. We are back, and I am here with Kim Bogash, who, you know, is amazing. I know her from Hydrafacial, which you all know that I love my Hydrafacial, but she's also really hardcore into Instagram and social media, and she's on TikTok even. See, TikTok, we love it. But what she's here today to talk about is the power of connections and how we make it and how it's important to get your business started. Kim, will you go ahead and give us a little bio on yourself so people know who you are?
Sure. So my name is Kim Bogash. And if you don't hear a little bit of Southern drawl, I am from Atlanta, Georgia. And I have been a practicing esthetician for 12 years, mostly working in dermatology, plastic surgery. I jumped over to the Hydrafacial side of things in November of 2020. So I'm a Hydrafacial pandemic baby. And I am so excited to be on the team. I love connecting hydrofacialists together and supporting them. I think supporting estheticians has brought me so much joy in my career and my life. So I love it. And one of the things I specialize with hydrofacial is social media, which I'm sure will be sprinkled somewhere into this conversation. So I love social media. I'm self-taught. I connected with a few people on social media because, again, it is a social platform to kind of help me figure out how to make this beast work for me. And the beast is still doing kind of what it wants to do, but I think I've got a good grip on it. But that is me. I'm a Sagittarius. I've got 2 little girls and I've got a little dog named Chewbacca.
Oh, Chewbacca. I didn't know that was his name. That's so cute.
That's totally adorable. Totally adorable. Chewbacca.
That's awesome.
So for you, we were talking about the power of connection. When I asked you if you would join us, and by the way, Skinfessional, we are all about supporting solopreneurs. I started because I wanted to support estheticians. I brought on Alex because she knows pretty much all there is to know about kind of starting yourself on social and getting onto the digital age. And it worked out perfectly because we literally had a pandemic, like 3 episodes or 4 episodes in.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody was moving online. So it worked out beautifully. But the power of connection is something that I think a lot of people don't realize. It's like the start. It's the start of how you make clients. We always talk about like, how are you getting clients? How are you keeping clients? But it's often that connection, whether you're in spa or you're online, where it all starts. So one of the things that we kind of talked about when we first started talking about this was the idea of how do you connect the first time? It's essentially you're connecting with a stranger. You don't even know who they are yet. And so social media is a way that you absolutely do that as you start connecting that.
You know, I think you are 100% correct. So as I said, I started my Instagram page kind of as a means to build my own book. I was working for a plastic surgeon who had a really large patient base and, always relied on that to get clients in. But I was like, I'm a new esthetician to this office. And so they might be acclimated to go into this person instead, who's been here for a little longer. So I started failing at first on Instagram, which I told you guys beforehand. It was like these posts of me looking cute. I was like, looking cute, might delete later. But there was no context behind what I was, doing. And so I had to educate myself on what kind of platform I wanted to take. Did I want to take an informational approach to my social? Did I want to educate my clients? And the answer to that was both. And you can still have a little fun with it. And at first it was just me posting images of the treatments, images of the before and afters on my clients, just so those people could see what I can do from my treatment table, from my treatment room. But then, what I call this the revealing the man behind the curtain, where I was like, okay, I need to come out from behind the curtain and these people need to know who the heck Kim Bogash is. So I came out from behind the curtain and I started talking to the camera and, doing pictures of myself and pictures of me doing demonstrations of treatments. And that way they could create a connection with me rather than this random operator behind the Instagram account. So then it was when I started doing that that people started, as they say, sliding into my DMs.
Yeah.
And people were like, when do you have availability?
Right. So, Alex and I, we've discussed a million times about the idea of being authentic. And that came up a lot when Alex and I were prepping this episode. So being authentic for you clearly was like the thing where you're like, hey, I'm authentic. I'm being more me. You can see my personality and myself.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about the idea of like your clarity on that? Like, how did you find like who you were when you first started?
Yeah.
Because that's what makes the
Like
connection,
making
right?
that shift to camera facing, because I think that's like a real struggle for people of putting themselves in front of the camera.
So, and I'll tell you a little more background on me. We're going to dig a little deeper here. I know, let's just pick up a shovel, everybody. I have a background in drama. So when I was in high school, I was in drama. I was performing all the time. I was in musical theater. I studied opera. So performing was always something that came pretty natural to me. So that kind of helped me in that regard. I also want to, again, give credit to my old boss, who, again, like I said, 10 years ago, started putting me in front of the camera with no rhyme or reason or even relevancy to social media. Just we're going to post this on our website's blog, which is still relevant now, but like that was what we had back then. She was like, I'm going to post, Kim Bogash's favorite eye cream is this, and then here's her explaining why.
Yeah.
And then we would, type out what I said and then also post the video too. So all of that to say, I think getting comfortable in front of the camera is just doing it. It's a practice. You have to just, in order to get comfortable in front of the camera, you just have to get in front of the camera and mess up a whole lot. And then finally, just you get to a point where it's almost like you're talking to your friend, or talking to a client that's in the treatment room. You kind of have to envision it like that. Like, listen, I'm sitting here, I'm talking with my girl Sybil about my new favorite sunscreen. Or my new favorite hand cream, and I'm just going to tell you what I like about it, and then see what questions you have.
Now, Alex, you and I have discussed the fact that one of the things I think is the power of that connection is also just, besides just like talking to your friends, and be like, hey, and I remember with you, Alex, at some point in TikTok, you're like, I watched this TikTok and I like how she just is like, hey, friend, hi. And you're like, I'm going to start doing that. But also it's about talking about things that make you who you are. Like people who follow, your social know that you have a cat, you have a dog, you like to work out. People know I am obsessed with unicorns and supernatural. I watch a lot of TV because it kind of like needs to sneak in so people understand what your core values are and who you are as a person. Those are like the layers of this like connection you're having with people who you don't even know yet. They're finding you. So when they come and meet you for the first time, they feel like your best friend and you're like, I don't even know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's like a missed opportunity with social media. So many people think, oh, it's just like this extra thing I have to do. But it not only is an opportunity for marketing and to show yourself, but for that new client, exactly like you're saying. So, well, they walk in the door and they're like, oh, I kind of have an idea who this person is. I have an idea of like what we can talk about and like what to expect. And, especially with like skincare, I'm thinking of a new hair removal, a person who does sugaring, and their social media is, stock photos, and there's no photos of them. And like, I'm going to go in and take my pants off. And like, I don't even know who you are. So it's just like, it makes it so much more, from a consumer, from a client standpoint, like, can I at least see your face before I show you my like bare ass?
Man
like,
behind the curtain.
Right. The man behind the Wizard of Oz. Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I know that when I do business consulting, one of the first things I do, even if people have like a big spa, I'm like, you need to have your real pictures of your people on it in like in action. It can't just be like these stock photos because people want to know that person. I'm seeing this person and they walk in, they're like, I recognize these people. I feel comfortable here. I know these faces, and they want to see the space, even if people feel like super embarrassed by their spaces. And I think people feel that they have to do what other people are doing. Like they look at other things like, this is what I should be doing. But I always say that you need to be like a unicorn. You need to be out there. And the more you stand out and are just yourself, the better off it is, especially when you're meeting that person for the first time. What ideas on that?
I think that's, I think that, some of the most successful posts that I've had on my social media are my reintroduction of myself. And I always do, my name is Kim Bogash, licensed esthetician for, 12 plus years. And I give like 3 fun facts. So I'm always like, I am a proud Gryffindor who saw every single movie at midnight the night they came out.
Me too.
I make cookies so that I can eat half of the raw cookie dough by myself ahead of time. And I also know all the words to the musical Rent. And those are quirky things. And what's fun is like the one that I posted that I know all the words to the musical Rent. A lot of people hopped into that one and they were like, oh my gosh, I know all the words to this show. And so then what was happening was these people that were eventually trickling into see me in the office were like, oh, by the way, I have to tell you, I saw Jersey Boys when I was in New York. Or I saw this and I thought that might be of interest to you. I'm like, it absolutely is of interest to me.
Right. Because you're creating this connection that once again, it has nothing to do, in your opinion, of like market. I'm not selling a cream. I'm not selling something, but I'm just like making a connection with you before you even walk through the doors. We have something to talk about.
I'm a person. I'm not a robot that just talks about, the importance of hyaluronic acid and why you should use vitamin C. Yeah. I also eat raw cookie dough and like to watch musicals.
For the person who is like still posting stock photos on social media, which is like, it's fine. We're just asking for like a little bit more. And, what we're not saying is, okay, now you just need to be sharing all of this personal information. It's sprinkled in with education because like you mentioned as well, Kim, your values and like what you believe in and what you stand for comes through whether you are talking about something you personally enjoy or you're talking about hyaluronic acid and the way you're talking about it and the way you're presenting it and how you're sharing and teaching. Yes. So I think if you're listening and you're kind of like, I don't eat raw cookie dough, where do I begin? Of just really getting clear with what matters to you and how you want to show up as a professional. Do you want to be like that helpful older sister? Or do you want to be like, the teacher? Or do you want to be like the drill sergeant? Like whoever it is, just be clear with what your values are and how you show up. And then you're able to communicate that through everything that you do.
Exactly. Yeah. Being informative. I think that in this industry, the two most successful pathways to choose is either educational or informative. I don't see a difference between the two, honestly. But I do think, educating your clients on, this is the newest thing that came up with HydraFacial. Here's why I love it. And here's why it's beneficial. I plan on using this booster on, my niece because my niece has, XYZ, which I'm not giving any personal information out about my niece. So that's not anything that, some people might worry about that. Mm-hmm. But it at least gives them some sort of connection like, oh, my niece. And they automatically land on, this person who is anywhere, teenage years, I think is where people almost always mentally land. So like, this would be a good one for this person. So creating some sort of like even connection to a product too, mm-hmm. I think it's going to give them a little bit more of just a grounding pathway for them.
Right. And so one of the things I want to talk about is the fact that there are the layers to these connections. And so I kind of like did a list of where I think that if you're thinking about connection, a lot of times we think the first thing is like when we meet somebody, they come in for that consult. But Alex and I discussed, and Alex primarily does her job online. 99% of your job is online, right, Alex? Absolutely. So yes. She lives in this world, right? So the power of connection is it's your website, it's your social media, it's your voicemail. And I know that a lot of people don't even have voicemails anymore, but there's a certain generation of people that you need a voicemail, people. And I'll be honest with you. Voicemail. Right, my voicemail for years literally said this: "Hi, you've reached Sybil at Soul and Skin Fitness Studio. Please leave a message because otherwise I will not call you back. You'll never have an appointment." Literally, because people don't want to leave a message. And so I don't care about anything else. I just want your name and phone number, right? That's all I care about. So when you have like these big, long voicemails, understand that for you, you're also not giving any like feel about who you are. As soon as you talk to me and you've heard that voicemail, you're just like, oh, this girl, she's funny. She's honest and upfront. I'm just going to tell you how it is. Yeah.
And it's not unprofessional either. I mean, what you said is not unprofessional. It's just, I think that some people, they say professional in their head and then automatically go to like stoic and flat.
Yes.
By this Sybil Solon with skin fitness expert. Leave a message at the beat. Yes.
Right.
I changed my batteries.
We also have auto emails, so the auto emails people don't think about, it's not even the ones that you program, it's the ones that like your system gives out, where it's like, hi, you have an appointment today, reminder, whatever. If you can, you should definitely put your own flavor to those. Like mine are always really funny because like I'm a funny person. I want you to understand when you're going to come in, it's not going to be serious. Your text messages and your DMs, which I think DMs people are a little bit more themselves because we live in that world, but we don't think about it in text. We're just like, yes, please come. Thank you. Yes.
I agree. I have a group of text messages that I send out. So one of the ways I confirm appointments for my chapter meetings that I host where I'm bringing together estheticians is I text them because I'm like, listen, that is just the easiest way to reach an esthetician. If they're in the treatment room, their phone's in their pocket. Absolutely. So I just send out, hey, this is Kim Bogash. So excited to meet you. Quick reminder that the venue is here. This is the date. This is the time. Any questions, respond back. And I will send almost that exact information in an email and get nothing. And then I start sending out these text messages and I'm like, please excuse me. I've got 35 different text messages to respond to that I just received in the past 3 minutes. So
we are living in a world of text.
Yeah, it's modern world, but I also personalize it a little bit more. So it's not like a please confirm.
Right. Like his yes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Right. Type Y or N.
Right.
I'm like, oh no, that's mine. No.
I was gonna say, so one of the things, Alex, you've made a whole systems designed around kind of these things at this point. And we have whole episodes where we talk about systems, we mine Alex's mind and ways to do it. But for you, with your emails, do you add a lot of flavor to them? Are you like yourself or are they just generic?
Yeah, well, they used to be generic. I think everyone, when you start out, you're just kind of like copying what everybody else is saying. And another tip that I have found to sound more like myself, because like you can talk to me, some audio platform, and I'm going to sound like me. And then I put my hands on the keyboard and I become a dead battery robot. I don't know, it just happens. So I started transcribing. So like I would do voice notes or actually mostly just voice notes and then transcribe that into what I wanted to say. So I could actually say it in my words, edit it down, maybe, put a better word and fix up the grammar a little bit, but then it sounded more like myself. So actually I just went through yesterday and was like auditing some pages and I was like, oh my, this is very stale. So yeah, you're never done, but that would be one way to bring your voice literally into your business.
Yeah. And that's fire, guys. That is such a good tip. I love that. I use a service called Dub a lot, which if you've ever done any of my stuff, I love Dub and I'll put it in the notes. Dub literally does videos. And then what it does is it takes that video and it puts an animated GIF in somebody's email so that they click on it and then they just listen to you talk. And it's one of my favorite services.
That's cute.
I watch your videos.
One of the things, 2 things on that is I had emails. When I was in the treatment room, I would send out little emails to my clients if they didn't reschedule or come back in 2 months after an initial service with me. And it was essentially a plug and play email, but it was, again, with just a little Kim fluff. And it was hey, Alex, the last time that you came in was 2 months ago for your hydrofacial. And just as seasons change, so should your skincare. And I would say, and it's probably time for your next, hydrofacial or chemical peel, or maybe we should look at your products. And those would be the things that I would customize in the email. And then to your Dub videos. So I guess my practice was a little more antiquated. So what I did was, and this was something that I did during the pandemic, which was helpful. And also I had the time. I created little like welcome videos for my people who scheduled consultations for whether they were a new client or not. But if they're coming in for a consultation on a different service, I would just record myself, maybe even in front of the device and say, hey, Sybil, I'm so excited or I wouldn't have a name on there. I would say, hey, I'm so excited that you booked for your hydrofacial treatment. Here are a couple things that I want you to do before you come in. Come in with a clean face. If you want to bring your products with you, we can talk about those when you come in for your treatment. And then here are a couple of things to expect after. And I would just go over those things too. I kept it right at about 30 to 60 seconds. And then I just uploaded it into every email along with like the written out directions from every way on 85 you can get to the office. And that was
That's
just,
so
hey, I'm helping
helpful.
you out by giving you directions. And then here's just a
Yeah.
little like step by step on what to expect in your video. And you're hearing it again from me. So I'm not just, I don't know the face of the person I'm about to go see, but they're about to, touch me, touch my face for the next hour and a half. And I'm just going to go with it, I guess.
I mean, I was just gonna say, like, that's so helpful. Again, in this conversation, I'm the consumer, right? I'm the one who like goes and tests out new service providers, and I'm like, well, I don't like that, and I don't like this, or I love this service. And I think having a before and after of like what to expect for your customers allows them, number one, like you're saying, to see your face. It also gives them an idea of like who you are and the culture of like what to expect. If you are, in a white coat and very serious, you're like, okay, cool. Like that's the vibe I'm going for. Like that's what I'm going to expect versus if you're, just your normal self in your normal clothes, maybe you have pink hair and they didn't know, like whatever. It gives people that first idea of who you are. And even for your clients who have been there before, like never assume that they know things because like we don't know anything, especially like aftercare with hair removal. And the last thing you want is for your clients to be like Googling things or going to social media to ask the questions that you as the professional should be able to answer for them, so that
Right.
you're creating that connection and establishing that relationship as you being the professional.
Absolutely. And so, and the ways to think about this is it's not just hair removal, which I know we come back to hair removal a lot because there's a lot of detail that happens with hair removal, but like it's post peels, it's micro, if you've done micro needling, even if you've used LED on somebody, you're like, maybe you're not aware that LED, we use a panel on you. And if you get claustrophobic, this is how it works. One of the facials I do, it's called like the Hannibal Lecter facial. Literally, it packs you in all this gauze and stuff, and then you put this like mask thing on people, and it looks like horrible, but you have like when people book it, I'm like, okay, so I call this like a wet works facial because you're going to be super wet, and then also you can't be claustrophobic, so let's have a conversation about like what's going to happen, so and this happens literally in an email when somebody books it, because sometimes people book these things and I'll be like, I've never seen you before. Have you had this treatment before? Do you know what the heck you're getting? Or you're just like, that sounds interesting.
See, and I think it's important just to have that, because I think one of my least favorite things to happen when I was in the treatment room was, well, you should have told me, or I didn't know this. So I was like, you know what? And like we talked about this whole week is, you know what, you're right. And I need to take note of this, and I need to find a way to better communicate with you. What is your communication language? Are you a texter? Are you a video person? And I can just find ways to target all of those different people. So I also am a fan of the snail mail too. I love the little handwritten situation too, beforehand and after. So
I love snail mail. And if you're looking, I always like to like plug tools that you can use. So one of the things I use is something called Postpilot, which it will automatically send out mail for you. So like literally it goes, you have an appointment, you have like the little thing, you picked out the cards and they go out. And then I've talked about before that I actually have handmade cards for just like when somebody comes into a treatment room and they're just like, they had a bad day, or something happened and it was amazing. So I have handmade cards that I will just send out myself for just that instance. Yeah.
I just think that it's not often done anymore. And when I started doing it, I received just a lot of gratitude from people because a lot of the cards made their way back to me, and not like a return to sender. It was more like what? Nobody sends this anymore. And it was really refreshing to find this really cute, blue card amongst all of my bills, just saying, thank you so much for choosing you. Right. So, and guess what? Those people came back.
Yeah.
Those are the people that, I was able to retain because I took the time to make it. And I didn't write a novel. So know that these handwritten cards aren't novels. They're literally maybe 3 to 5 sentences that are just, hey, Sybil, thanks so much for taking the time to come see me at my spa. Your skin was glowing after your treatment. I know that we went over a bunch of new products. If you have any questions, please reach out. Here's my email. Here's my phone number. See you soon, or see you at your next appointment.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And honestly, some people, you can pre-write those too.
Yep.
Yeah. Seeing systems in place. That's why I use Postpilot. When you have Alex as a friend, you try to do as many systems as possible so you don't get system shame.
Yeah, well,
Right.
actually, I was going to ask you about this, Kim, too, because you mentioned, sending a video depending on what their treatment is or this or
Yep.
that. Is any of that automated, or do you have like a certain each day you sit down at the end of the day and like send out the emails for the next day? Like, how does that work for you?
So it'll just depend on whatever the esthetician has in place. I mean, I honestly did it where I had everything saved on my desktop. So it wasn't automated from the way I did it. So like I said, very antiquated. I was almost archaic in the way I did it, where I would just look at my schedule, maybe 48 to 72 hours out, and say, okay, you know what? I've got a body contouring, I've got a laser appointment, I've got a chemical peel. So I would send out those emails with those videos attached to it.
And then what
Awesome.
about now? Do you have it like more updated? Do you have new tools that you like now?
So nothing that I'm doing right now. Again, like I said, I'm working for Hydrofacial, so I'm out of the treatment room. But I
Okay.
do just the manual text messages. So again, I still practice the old archaic ways of just copy and
I mean,
paste and changing the name.
no, but texting, like you're to your point as well. Like there are thousands of emails I do not open, but there are zero text messages that I leave on unread. So
Goodness.
it's a
See,
great
and
way
it's
to get a
again
hold of
just knowing
people.
your audience too, and figuring out what works best for them.
Yeah.
And I think
Definitely.
in the aesthetic industry, and I don't know that I would even limit it to the aesthetic industry. I just think our generation, or this generation that we're in right now, really responds very quickly to text message. My 10-year-old daughter will text me quicker than she will to walk downstairs to ask me a question.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
And
you
so
could just,
speaking of that, with the language that you use, I know that like you have specific things that you like to make sure that, like how you sound with people. So they come in for a consult or they're on an email. We've talked about, making sure that it feels like you and it sounds like you, but is there something that you like to make sure to keep that connection with people that you kind of like always put in, or you always like to say?
so I always say, of course, thank you for choosing. And, rather than saying, what are we scheduling today? What are you interested in scheduling? That way it's just, it kind of leaves it open to, a question answer opportunity. That way, again, it gives you that opportunity to, educate them a little bit more on what they're planning on. Um, what are you hoping to address? What are your concerns that we're hoping to address in the treatment room? That way I can prepare on my end, or if we're already in the treatment room, conversations, you could ask like discovery questions. Like I always liked to give my clients a mirror
Mm-hmm.
and say, what do you, when you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you like right now? What do we want to stay the same? And then other questions would be, what do you dislike? And
Mm.
what are we looking to change? Or I would even just get to the simplest question would be, when you woke up this morning, before you got dressed, brushed your teeth, showered, anything, and you rolled out of bed and you looked in the mirror, what did you see?
Right, right. So really
Because
like
that's that
really
moment.
honing in on that.
Yeah, so just really honing in on that. And again, just kind of figuring out who the audience is. Of course, you can't ask, a teenager, when you rolled out of bed, what didn't you like about yourself? Because then we're going to open up the can of worms of Mean
Right.
Girls here.
Yeah. I'll be here
So
all day.
yeah, I'm sorry. And you were beautiful and there's nothing to change. And how about we
Right.
just do the simple treatment that your mom booked for you?
Right.
Um, Rather than, again, just having all that information. And then, my favorite question is, what are we getting you ready for?
Yeah, that's a good one.
So if it's a new client and they're coming in, oh my gosh, thank you so much for coming. What brought you to me today? Are we
Mhm.
getting you ready for an event? And if they say they're getting ready for, their son's wedding, write that down, write that, because that is like a really great way to just kind of maintain that connection. I
Hmm.
worked with a couple of different computer systems where you could take what I called puppy dog notes. About like the clients that you were seeing. That way you could reference it when they came in the next day. So I can say, oh, well, Debbie's got her son's wedding coming up. So, ask her how things are going. I know she mentioned that they're meeting with the florist, right before her appointment. So ask about that. I remember I had a client who was a professional gardener or a botanist.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't know how to talk to you. And I
Uh,
think I said that. I was like, I don't know how to converse about this. So I am just going to ask you to tell me things about yourself while I was treating her. And so she told me all of these. I was like, help me make this so that it's relatable to me. Because I was like,
mhm.
that's like me, giving you a bottle of a chemical peel and saying, here you go, have fun. um, this is how I'm going to make this, relatable for you. And so she sat down and she took the time and made the connections. I became obsessed with hydrangeas after that conversation. So I made a note, like, this woman's a professional gardener / a botanist. And she taught me about, the different ways to adjust your pH for hydrangea. And I remember, and when she came in the next day, I was like, oh my God, you have to see my flowers. So these are just fun little like ways just to keep that connection going too. So again, it's more than just talking about the treatment. It's, making them excited to see, Sybil as a person. Sybil's just fun to talk with too.
Right. And also, like, it makes that person feel like they are part of your family. And I think especially as solopreneurs, we need to, we are keeping a client as a family member almost. When they leave us, we're sad. I mean, hopefully you're sad. If they leave and you don't like them, bye. Yes. But generally you love that client. You like, and like you look at your schedule and you're like, I'm excited to see this person today. This is really exciting. And I think that really helps with a follow-up too, because now you know more about that person. You can now start targeting their care and their treatment and keeping in touch with them. Would you say the same thing?
Absolutely. I think just, again, keeping that connection. I always like to reach out to people after the treatment and say, oh my gosh, you were glowing after we did your treatment. And I know that you were going off to your next appointment afterwards. How did it go? Or I've treated many people who were going to a date afterwards. And so what's fun is I get to hear it's worth it to keep the connection, because then you can hear about the things that went wrong.
Totally.
And I've had a client that came in and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going on a date tonight. I'm really excited. And then I would say, oh my gosh, how was that date? And then I got to hear all about what the dating world is like right now.
Right.
And so they would just say like, oh, this guy was a nightmare. But then I went on a date with another guy that my mom set me up with, and he's really great. So I like the connection there. And so then whether or not you're able to remember that stuff, you can still at least find a way to make note of it when they come in for their next appointment. Just say, okay, well, how's the dating world going now? Or, I know that you're redoing your house after this appointment. So,
So Alex, did you say even online stuff? Because you do mostly you do these online intakes, and you have, you do have like calls and stuff for your people and your membership, but how do you kind of like manage that?
Exactly as Kim is saying, of taking notes on people's profiles. So that the next time you talk to them, you're like, oh yeah, so how did that, competition go, and how's your shoulder feeling? Or I had this one client I actually saw yesterday who canceled a bunch of times. Like, I think he initially purchased the service like 7 weeks ago and just finally used it because he had a new grandbaby. So I made sure to make a note of that when that email cancellation came through. So then I was able to ask him, so how's the new grandbaby? And then I think also, as connections go in personalization, like, there are other people who do what we do, but they're not us. And so any way you can make it more personalized and like create those connections and let the client feel seen and important is not that hard. Like, it literally is as simple as like making a note. Oh, how's the new grandbaby? And then they get to like talk about this exciting thing that's going on in their life.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And I wanted to touch just for a second, because once again, Alex is the queen of systems. And based on all the conversation we had, are there any like recommendations? Now, mind you guys, I know you're listening, and a lot of times we're very non-tech people when we first start out, especially spa people. But we have all kinds of listeners. We have private practice people who listen to us, and they also, by the way, are not tech people, because I just worked for one recently. So, Alex, what would you say if you were making kind of some baby steps? Where would you kind of start with setting up some systems?
I think, again, to Kim's point about taking notes and like using your client software, whether that's, I hope it's not on paper, but if it is on an online database, right? Making those notes about the conversations that you have with clients so that you can share those things about hydrangeas. I didn't know there was a pH thing involved. So, and then maybe just like setting up into your schedule, again, like Kim was talking about, of having, like literally blocking it in your schedule. Maybe it's at the end of the day, or maybe it's at the first, hour of your day, to send out those emails for your appointments that are 24, 48, 72 hours in advance. Here's what you need to know. Here's what to expect. Here's what to do. So a system doesn't always have to be a piece of software that costs you extra money. It might just be something that you commit to doing on a regular basis to keep things flowing well.
Right. And that in and of itself is a system too. I would, when I was in the treatment room, I would put it on my schedule, not necessarily block time, but just put like a note at the end of the day. Don't leave the office until you send these emails out. And then it would pop out like on my schedule throughout the entire day. So that way, if I, finished with a client a little early, or I actually got a lunch break today, or I was doing a nice nap time facial, I had that time in between, that 10-15 minutes where I can just, catch up on things and just, again, copy and paste those emails and plug them out and go. So as long as you set these not formal systems up ahead of time, you do the work ahead of time, then you've just made plug and play for yourself.
Right. Well, and speaking of the nap time facial, one of the reasons I created the nap time facial to have a nap in it was partially because I wanted the time to make my chart notes every single time. Because how many times have you been, I mean, and guys, I know we all struggle. Making those notes when you're sitting in that office can be so hard. And you're like, I'll get to it at the end of the day. Then you've had 10 clients. You're like, I don't remember who this belongs to. I don't remember. I have a jot out of Post-it. What the heck does this mean? Like It says, yes, Billy. And you're like, what? Right.
Who's Billy? Everything smells like phenol. I know I did a phenol peel somewhere in the day.
Right. You're like, what was I doing? What? So if you can schedule that time, create it in your life, or set up like an auto system that it happens. And I know that there's some estheticians, they like to bring like their notepad and everything into the treatment room and whatever. I don't like glowing light in my treatment room, but if it works for you, whatever works for you, works for you. I had an esthetician who I worked with who she literally had a laminated a list of questions that she got the answer for, wrote it in dry erase marker, and like set it to the side for her day for every client. And then she just wiped them off at the end of the day and use them again the next day. And this worked for her because it didn't waste anything. She got the information and then she could put it in by the end of the day.
That's brilliant. And she could just take a picture of it, take a quick screenshot before she wipes it down too, if for some reason she didn't transcribe it over.
Right. I mean, I don't think she did, because I think she was like, part of the reason of having only so many was that she made sure she put it in because she knew she was writing it down.
She's better than I am.
Right, but we all have our ways, right? Because I mean, come on now, we've all been to the person who's been like, I'll just put those off. I'll just put this on. Next you have 100 and you're like, what did I do to myself? What did I do? But all of these things help you make that kind of connection with the client, make you that unicorn who stands out and is the person that they're like, well, I see, Alex, I see Sybil, I see Kim, because there's nobody who does what she does for me.
Right.
And that's what it comes down to.
She remembers me, yeah.
Right. She comes, I mean, I don't know how many times I get a client who comes in who hasn't seen me since the pandemic and will be like, I haven't seen anyone. I waited to see you. And I'm like, I mean, you could have seen someone else. No, absolutely not.
And I appreciate that, Tress. And look what you've done for yourself. You've created a really loyal, solid clientele. I have that relationship with my hairdresser where I even bring my daughters go to see her now to get their hair done. How spoiled are they that they actually go and see the same hairstylist as their mother? But she knows to put me in a certain chair that I like. She puts me, they have like a separate shampoo room that's really quiet and soft. I told you about my shampoo room experience there. But she brings me back there while my dye is setting in. This isn't real, you guys. It hasn't been real since I was 8. And she puts me back there ahead of time just because she knows I like the quiet. So she knows these things about me. She takes care of me the way I like. My sister is also another one of the people that I've had do my hair before, and I love her. She's my sister, and I get a sandwich whenever I go and see her too. So that's always something that I can, look forward to when I go there. So it's giving them something to look forward to. So it's more than just, I'm going to go and get my facial today. I'm going to go get my laser today. It's, I'm going to go hang out with Sybil for a little while today. I've got an appointment with Sybil. I don't have a hydrofacial appointment. I have an appointment with Sybil.
Right. Exactly. And it's how they feel about it. And I mean, Alex, I know that for you, you have like a whole membership where one of the things that you thought about was, how do I get people to interact with each other and like become like a team and a unit, where they're supporting everybody in the group. And it's the same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just putting like faces to names, because I think especially in the online world and through the pandemic where everything was online, it's really easy to remain anonymous and to allow people to feel seen and to feel, like known even is so important.
Well, this has been a lot of information. I know that you're like probably listening. You're like, wow, okay, so I have to do a bunch of stuff. Or maybe you're like, I'm already doing a bunch of this stuff and I just didn't recognize how awesome I was. Because you are. If you're doing this, you know that you have a powerful connection with your clientele. But also look at it as, how can I do more? What's that next one thing that I can do to make it that much better? And then go do that. And we'd love to hear about it.
Yes, yeah. I love that. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Kim. And also, where can people find you on the internet if they want to keep tabs on what you're up to?
So best way is Instagram. I, on Instagram, am Head to Toe by Kimbo.
And also, if you search Kim Bogash, you also come up, because I think you are the only Kim Bogash as well.
My maiden name is Daly, and there were a lot of Kim Dailies in the world. But again, and Daly is also a very common last name too. So becoming a Bogash has helped me in multiple folds. So
there you go.
That's awesome.
Make sure you hit up Kim. She has excellent stuff, and she has no problems with you. Go ahead and copy her, what she's doing, because
all of it.
Yep. She's out there being like, dude, be special. But if you need help, we're here for you.
Yes. Always happy to help anyone out there. Sybil, this has been great. Alex, it was very nice to meet you.
Yeah,
and I'd love to do this again sometime.
We'll keep in touch. Thank you so much. You have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
How all right. Amazing was that conversation with Kim. I hope you had as much fun as I did, just nerding out about social media, but not just like the nitty gritty, but like the overarching of why and like how we can help people feel connection and welcomed and as a part of our business and more than just a client who hands you cash. So we want to hear from you about your experiences. So definitely hit us up. You can find the show on Instagram at Skinfessional. You can find Sybil at Skin Fitness Expert. You can find myself at Hala for Mala, or you could also leave us a voicemail into our box.
I know. What is that? By the way, we learned today that nobody apparently checks their voicemail, but we have one. So it's 818-473-5277. And mine's Google Voice. So it actually just transcribes your information to me, which I appreciate.
Amazing. Yeah. Also, if you would rather email us and write us and wax poetic via electronic mail, you can do that too. The show is Skinfessional, like tripping over my words today, y'all. Skinfessional, pod@gmail.com. That's Skinfessional, like this show, pod@gmail.com.
This is how the sausage is made, everyone. Seriously. We are trained professionals and good at this, clearly. We have our stuff together all the time.
So good.
Yeah, totally.
So good.
So, everyone, until next week.
Keep your secrets to yourself.
Unless you're telling us. Okay, bye.
Bye.
I mean, that was
my brain.
That wasn't a hot mess or anything. I loved it. It was magic.
My brain is still on vacation. This is literally what I mean. This has been.
It was fire.